Welcome back, Gold Squad, to the Chicago Cubs franchise. Big episode here today. We are revealing all of the custom prospects that I was able to create from our NCAA 07 draft class. Of course, with patron prospects included. And as you know, we did the draft in episode number 7. It was a live stream. If you want to go check out that video, it's available for you guys to see how the draft was done. Probably going to run the same process here for year number 2, year 3, year 4, and onward. But before we reveal those prospects, we've got to get past the playoffs. We've got to get past the offseason, number 1. That's when I'm able to add these guys in. But let's talk about the playoffs right now. We got Toronto, Boston in a 2-1 series, Chicago White Sox and Houston in a 2-1 series, and Milwaukee wins their divisional series. They're advancing to take on the Dodgers. So the Dodgers actually haven't even lost a game in the postseason yet. So this is pretty interesting to see what's going to happen here. Boston, Houston, Milwaukee, LA. Let's see how it all plays out. And we've got an LA sweep. They still haven't lost in the postseason. It's ridiculous. They're so strong of a team. So we're here on the Boston calendar. They're going to beat Houston, and it will be a Red Sox-Dodgers World Series here for 2022. Let's go ahead and simulate the World Series and see what is going to happen here. And it looks like it's going to be LA and LA. LA wins 4-1. And your postseason MVP would be Trey Turner. Your World Series MVP would be Edwin Rios. Bogarts on the American League side wins the postseason MVP on that end. So we've got a couple retirees here. PJ Higgins is going to retire from our system. Miguel Cabrera, of course, we kind of all saw that coming. He's 39 years old. And did he reach 3,000 hits in this franchise series? Did he do it? How many hits did he get? He got 3,000. He had 3,040. You would expect him to. I don't know if he got hurt in this series, but always nice to see that Miguel Cabrera, Detroit Tigers guy over here, even though I'm admittedly not much of a Cabrera guy, given his early issues here with the Tigers. No World Series rings after all that production, but you gotta at least respect his game, right? So 3,040 hits in this Sim series, in this franchise series. Yadi Molina is going to retire. I'm sure Cubs fans are real sorry, real sad about that. Adam Wainwright as well going to retire. So a lot of the old guard for the Cardinals going to go bye-bye. So Waino, Yadi, 2 guys retiring here, and not really anybody else to mention at the retiree stage. But taking a look at our exclusive free agents, we got a couple guys to sign up, and we are missing a farm director, and I'm actually going to fire Willie Harris. Now that's going to maybe come as a surprise to some Cubs fans out there, but in this game he was actually regressing some of our attributes. So he's going to go bye-bye. We're going to address that later. I did offer Willson Contreras a contract. It's going to be a front-loaded contract. I'm going to try to get him a little front-loaded deal. We know how catchers really regress hard with their knees, with their injuries and things like that. So I think the front-loaded contract would work best for a catcher. Pay him for the good years, pay him less for the bad years. That's kind of my mentality. Now, Archie Bradley, we're going to offer him the closing position, and Jonathan Villar and Chatwood we're not going to even bring back. Darryl Boston, we're going to offer him a third base contract. We ended up firing Willie Harris, and we're going to offer Boston a contract. We also went after a farm director who's pretty old. You know, I think he was like 50 plus years old. I think that was probably the right thing to do as a farm director. I didn't want to cheese it up and go after guys that were, mid 30s with attributes, pluses all over the place. I just didn't think that was realistic. But big trade, Milwaukee and St. Louis. Paul Goldschmidt going to an intra-divisional opponent. Kind of a weird trade. But you guys saw real quick, we've got some tendering contracts to take care of. Patrick Wisdom up for tender contract. Frank Schwindel. Also Nico Horner for arbitration. And looking at Nico, he's an 88 right now. I want to offer him the big bucks, okay? I want him to bring his A game here for the Chicago Cubs franchise. He's 25 years old, already had an 88. Not a lot of pop in his bat, right? I mean, he's going to hit a couple home runs in real life. He's got some capability to hit a home run every now and then. But that 240 average, insanely good defense, great speed. It's really what I'm looking for out of a shortstop. And he's relatively cheap. You can get him for 3 years. You get him on the year 28 contract when he's got to renew or he's available to renegotiate. And we're going to bring him back here for 3 years. And just as a comparison, okay, Trey Turner's asking for $31.2 million at a 94 overall. We're getting Nico Horner at like $4 million, I think it was. $4.4 million for 3 seasons. Granted, he's 25 right now. By the time he's 28, he's probably going to be upwards of 90, probably asking for the big bucks. But right now, I think it serves us in our purpose for him. So we're going to actually go after Ian Happ here and also offer him a contract. It's going to have a club option to play every day. Kind of a cheaper deal, about $7.5 million. I think it's a smart move for us. Yeah, he hit 207, but where else are you going to get the run production right now for us in kind of a transition year? Again, we're going to make some moves to get some of our younger guys up and playing. I think they're ready to contribute. But I think, again, we're just trying to at least give ourselves a competitive chance. I think that's really where we stand. We're also going to go after Darwinzon Hernandez, offer him arbitration. Eliezer Hernandez, we're going to go offer him arbitration. Pretty much everybody down this list, I'm looking at arbitration. We've still got some moving parts in this organization, I feel like. The one exception I feel like would be Alec Mills. So he's 31 years old. He didn't pitch that badly for us. Yeah, he gave up 30 home runs, the most he's ever given up. So we're going to offer him a 3-year deal. It's cheap. It's about $1.5 million per season. It's very cheap for a starting pitcher. We could move him to the bullpen. You know, once our young guys start coming up and they start really producing and able to come in and be a full-time starter, I think it's smart. Plus, he might be trade bait this year. If he pitches well, he might be trade bait. We can get a little something for him and get that money off the books. But for now, it's just smart to bring him back. He was a depth guy for us anyway. Might as well go after that. So Clint Frazier, we're going to offer him arbitration. Now, he wanted about 1.9 for 2 seasons, and I'm like, let's just go $2 million for 1 season, and we'll talk about it later. Patrick Wisdom, club option, everyday roll, $2 million for that kind of power. I think that's a ridiculously great deal. And again, we might decide to move on from him. We might decide to trade him away. And plus, it's a contract-friendly situation for any team that would acquire him. I think it would give us a big-time payday if we're able to move on from him. But we'll see how it goes. You know, you didn't want to sign a guy like that for a long-term deal. He's 31 years old. Just didn't make a lot of sense. But Frank Schwindel, we're going to kind of do the same thing. Lock him up for a few seasons, see how it goes, and go from there. None of these guys, I feel like, you know, they're good bridge players for our rebuild. They might be a part of the whole entire rebuild when it's all finished. But again, you don't really know quite yet how it's all going to pan out. There's a lot of variables at play here. But Justin Steele, I want to bring him back for multiple seasons. Nick Fortes, again, I like Fortes. He hit 288 for us last season in limited playing time. We're going to bring him back on a multi-year deal, 2-year contract to bring him back. Brennan Davis will bring back. Christian Franklin, Pinango, Alcantara, all of our young guys that are down there in the minor leagues, we did bring back. And there is the results. So Patrick Wisdom's coming back. Francesco Campos. This is not Francesco Campos. Okay? This is a Reed Stein or a David Booth. Both of our pitchers that we drafted out of the NCAA 07 series. So your results up on the screen, man. We are done with our tender contracts. We got pretty much everybody back. Now it's time to look at that free agent class. And really, it's all about, do we want to make a splash yet or not? Do we feel like our team is ready or not? We came in second to last place in the NL Central. It was not a good season. Do we go all in and grab ourselves a pitcher like Luis Severino or Sean Manaea is in here as well, guys? Or do we go after Aaron Nola? He doesn't seem like he's very interested in the Phillies offer. Sean Manaea could lean more towards the Oakland Athletics offer, but he's 31 years old. But he's an 84, and he'd fit in really nicely with Stroman and Hendricks, and we get another left-handed arm in this starting rotation. Right now, it's just Justin Steele. That's it for our lefties. But he's asking for $13+ million per year. He's interested, but we'd have to overpay, I think, a little bit more, probably upwards of 15 to go get him. And he wants a long-term contract of 5 seasons. I ultimately decided that we're going to pull out of the Sean Manaea sweepstakes, so we're not going to go after him. Willson Contreras decided that he was going to elect to test free agency. So he didn't like the offer that we gave him. So we got to up our game. We got to up our offer before he signs with anyone else. I really don't want him to go somewhere else. I think Willson Contreras is a huge part of this Cubs franchise. I think he's a huge part of our rebuild in this series. So I do want to bring him back. Now, Ryan McBroom, you saw I offered him a contract. It's mostly a depth first base offer. I think he could do really well down in AAA. Same thing here with Hanser Alberto. I'm going to offer him a contract. We've got 84 wisdom, and then we drop down all the way to 67 overall. Taylor Motter, that was just kind of a guy that I added, not really thinking that I was going to use him for anything. But Hanser Alberto is very interesting to me. He's been a player that I've always liked ever since he was coming up with the Texas Rangers. First, second, and shortstop eligibility. He can hit well against lefties. Vision is a 97, regardless if it's against a righty or a lefty. I think it just makes sense to bring in a guy like that. Nice little depth piece. So really what we're doing here is, you can see it, we're kind of nickel and diming it. We're not spending too much money. We're just looking at depth guys right now, just giving our young guys time to come on up. And really, when you're looking at the free agent list, yeah, there's obviously guys that signed elsewhere that would help us this season. It would be nice if we were able to go out and sign those dudes that could help us immediately. But would that really be a rebuild? Would that be realistic? Would that be a franchise rebuild that you'd want to see? Probably. Everybody else watches these quick rebuilds, but that's not what we're doing here. We're trying to make this thing as realistic as we possibly can. The Cubs not really being too active out in free agency might turn a little people off here. Maybe in real life, the Ricketts fan said they wanted to spend money, right? They wanted to be active and getting this rebuild going. They went out, they got Marcus Stroman last season. They went out, they got Seiya Suzuki. But I'm looking at this core. I'm looking at this group of players that are in our system. And I feel like spending money for Nola, Gallo, Kershaw, JD Martinez, it's just like they don't really fit what we're trying to do. Sean Manaea, Syndergaard, they're kind of old. Dare I say that? They're just getting a little old. They're getting a little up there. I'm looking for a guy like in his 25 age range, right? And really being able to make an impact like immediately. All those guys would be well worth the money. Don't get me wrong. They would definitely be worth the money. But what we're trying to do with this team is we've got a good farm system, and we want to focus on those young guys coming up and making an impact for this franchise in the long term. So Willson Contreras, he ended up signing with us, so that front-loaded contract is looking really, really nice. I love the fact that we're paying him up front, and then it gets cheaper by the season, especially when we've got young catchers that are probably going to take his job by the time that he's 35, 36. So I think that that's a good decision to make, because we want to be thinking about that like a guy like Patrick Bailey or a guy like Chris Addison, a guy that we just drafted out of Santa Clara, he could be our catcher of the future. So we got multiple options at catcher that could take over Willson Contreras' job out there. Little quick snapshot of the free agents that have signed so far. Max Muncy going out to the Mariners, signing a 4-year, $73 million contract. That's a big one for Seattle. They got themselves a pretty solid hitter. But, Muncy right now is I think he's batting 130. Real life, it has not been good. Not been good for Max Muncy. Little update again, just letting you guys see who all is signed elsewhere. Kind of getting a feel for where the movement's been going. Chad Pinder, one of my favorite players, going to the Guardians. Let's see if anybody else is out here that's notable at least. Zach Davies to the Padres. Rengifo to the Tigers. Austin Wells to the Royals. Muncy for the Mariners, and there you go. Jock Peterson goes to the Angels as well. Nothing really else going on here. Blue Jays, Tucker Barnhart. Josh Naylor to the Rays. Clevenger to the Giants. Twins, Severino. Okay. Sweet. All right. Well, Severino should do well out there in the AL Central. We're looking at Aroldis Chapman to come back to the Cubs. This interests me a little bit. He's 35 years old, lefty option. We got Archie Bradley as our closer. We might have a closer by committee. Between two guys, at least. Chapman as the lefty, Bradley as the righty. But then I ultimately decide maybe that's not the best option for us. Because we did promise Bradley that he'd be our closer. Kenley Jansen interests me as well. He's a 79. A little bit of regression right now, but we ultimately decide not to go that route either. Matt Beatty was a guy that I was looking at the trade deadline. So we were trying to move some players over to the Padres, but I didn't see any deals that would really work for us there. But Beatty's a free agent now, and I can get him for free, basically. I don't have to give anything up, except fake dollar bills, yo. Jake Bauers, another guy that interests me, is a left-handed first baseman. We don't have that right now. We had that with Alfonso Rivas, but we didn't have that at the major league level. We had that with Frank Schwindel as a righty, not a switch hitter. He's just a righty. So I'm looking at guys that can hit left-handed. So Beatty, Bauers, we ultimately decided to go with Beatty. Rule 5 draft underway, and we didn't lose anybody, which is a good thing. We didn't even actually have a pick in Rule 5. I always like to go into the Rule 5 just to see if there's something that we could possibly add, but there was just nothing there. We didn't even have a pick. So, and from the players that got picked, I wouldn't have taken them anyway. But Matt Beatty, as a left-handed specialist, to be able to hit right-handers, Schwindel can hit left-handers. I like that little split there. Not that I'm looking for Schwindel to be a platoon first baseman, but it's always good to just have backup options. A couple guys off the board. You see up on your screen, Aaron Nola going to the Texas Rangers, and that is your updated list. Tim Anderson, the best free agent, left up on the board. So he ends up signing, actually, with the Miami Marlins as we move forward here in this calendar month of January. And we are now losing all of our arbitration offers. They are going with the player in some of these arbitration, which is crazy because I saw I offered, might be a glitch or something, because I offered Clint Frazier $2 million in arbitration. He's getting 1.9. So I don't really know how the CPU calculated that we lost, or they're siding with the player on it. It's weird to me. Anyway, updated free agent list up on the board, just kind of doing my own due diligence to take a look and see what list and what players are left up here and see if there's anybody that we would think about adding. And it doesn't look like there's much of anything here, so we're going to move on. And we've got custom players to reveal. Chris Addison, our number 1 draft pick number 7 of last season's draft. He's our backup catcher, left field, center field, right field. He can play the outfield spots. Take a look at what he did at Santa Clara last season. 396, 12 homers, 33 ribbies, and he was Baseball America's Offensive Player of the Year award winner, which is awesome for us to go get. He's an A potential. I'm not bringing him up into spring training. I think I'm going to stick him down there in Double-A for right now, see how he does, and then call him up from there. Reed Stein, a left-hander out of New Orleans, should be a good pitcher for us. He's a 77B, good day game pitcher, so that would be kind of cool for day games at Wrigley. But out of New Orleans, 98 stamina, got some good stuff, 2-seamer, curve, 4-seamer, and a slider. Going to be a good addition to our pitching staff. Kind of cool that we got both those guys. We got David Booth out of Alabama and Reed Stein out of New Orleans, a lefty and a righty, guys that are going to strike out a bunch of people. Take a look at what Booth was able to do out in Alabama. 99 slider, 94 curve, 94 seamer. So he's got some pretty nasty stuff. He's probably the nastiest pitcher of the two between Stein and him. Stein's got a little bit more control, I think, more of that lefty. He's got some good velo, but I think David Booth is more of that K guy that I love. So a couple prospects, not everybody. I'm not going to show you all 75, but just guys of note, maybe. Just people that I've come across. George Salas, Ben Zawadzki out of Iowa. We've got this player, Mikey Porter, for the Brewers. He's a patron prospect, 75A, as an 18-year-old. We've got Cornelius Kane for the St. Louis Cardinals. Kevin McMillan out of Texas Tech. He played in that prospect showcase. Connor Roberts, another patron player, 18 years old, 75A. Going to be a long-term fixture for the Dodgers. on the outfield. And of course, our number 1 overall draft pick out of Ohio State, Jay Kinney, who led them all the way to the national championship in the World Series, and they ended up losing to Washington. Joey Randa, a second baseman, utility type guy for Georgia Tech. And of course, if you watched the draft, you know that the Tampa Bay Rays went crazy on prospects at catchers. So they drafted a guy out of NCAA 07, Pokey Wynn from Army, and they got 2 Patreon catchers, Wes Williams-King and Chucky Morton. Now, another good player, Bombadele Warfield, starting pitcher for the Blue Jays. Watch out for him, 18-year-old 75A, another Patreon player. So he's going to be amazing. And of course, John Choi, a two-way player, but of course, as you know, two-way is very hard to get in the show. And I don't manage the Tigers, so I ended up just making him a left fielder. And we'll see how that all plays out for John Choi. But good hitter, not very good on the defensive side of things, so he's kind of a project. But out of Pacific, had a good season in NCAA 07 with hitting. So he should be able to translate out here in the major leagues. Well, guys, that's going to do it for the video. Leave a like if you like this thing. I'll see you back here on Saturday night for a little bit of spring training. We'll dabble in that, see some of those position battles, see how our guys are performing, maybe some players that need to get called up, maybe some people that have won jobs for the opening day roster, people that need to be called down, moved on from. We'll see. But guys, on Saturday, it's kind of a different little upload schedule here. I'm uploading on Saturday because Tuesday I missed. And I was making prospects. I was making 75 prospects. I didn't cover every guy, as you know, in this offseason video. Even though they've been all created, all 75 guys have been made, I'll let you know who they are when we run into them in gameplay, whether that's spring training some years or whether that's actually in Major League gameplay. I'll let you know who they are, so that way you get familiar with them, and it'll be kind of cool to get some immersion going. But really, I think going forward for year 2, year 3, year 4, however long that we go on this, I think I'm going to pull back on the number of prospects that I create. That was crazy. 75 is nuts for the show. Man, it's a lot of players. So I think I'm going to pull it back, probably like 30 or 40 per season. When I'm missing upload schedule for that, I think that's kind of a problem. So it definitely slows the series down for sure. And I definitely don't want to slow it down. I think we need to move a little faster with it, just from feedback that I've heard from you guys. So we'll cap this off at like 30 to 40 prospects going forward, and we'll start moving a little faster. So Saturday's episode will cover spring training, statistics, call-ups and call-downs, getting the opening day roster ready. We will cover opening day for 2023 as well on Saturday. And next Tuesday's episode for next week, we'll get to June. I want to get a little custom prospect update, like how's Chris Addison doing? I don't think that he's going to make the big league club. I want him to get regular at-bats down to the minor league system. Plus Reed Stein, David Booth. I want to see how those players are doing too. Plus get us some updates on our actual real-life Cubs prospects down in the minor leagues. So we'll get an update there on Tuesday. And then next Thursday, we'll probably get to the All-Star break. Yeah, so we're moving fast. We're going to move fast here through Season 2. And before you know it, we're going to be back at the trade deadline and making some more moves to try to get this team back on track. So guys, again, that's it for the episode. What did you think about the offseason? What do you think about our minor moves? Guys we brought back, did you agree with the Willson Contreras, Patrick Wisdom, Frank Schwindel type of moves, bringing these guys back for another couple seasons? Tell me what your thoughts are about the contracts that we offered and our offseason in general. So guys, I'll see you on Saturday night. As always, thank you so much for watching, and peace.